How do you sell your company? The nitty gritty. You're like, yes, I went ahead and I know it's time to leave because the job is done, mission accomplished, the community is done, they don't want it anymore, or I'm done, it's time to go. You're like, yep, it's time to wrap it up. You actually have to understand how you set up the infrastructure for your company. Again, as we talked about in the previous segment, whether it's VC backed from other people, and then you have other people like your board members to address with it, or as I've done, it's bootstrapped and it's just you and your team or your co-founders or just you talking to yourself. There's nothing wrong with talking to yourself, particularly since being a startup a startup leader slash founder, it could be a lonely journey. So if you're talking to yourself, that's fine. Whatever you need to do. And you're like, yeah, it's time to exit. It's time to wrap up the business. The first step is to figure out how you want to get it to someone or something that's going to own it. Do you want to get acquired by a bigger company? When me and my co-founder sold Cuddler, we actually sold it to a dating company, so it made sense in their portfolio. We created Cuddler, a platonic app that connected people for hugs. 250,000 users, excellent. They're like, great. So with our final decision, we were like, yes, this feels like the home for it. If you've already built a community with that business, with who you're selling it to, is that community compatible with it? Our app, our community was based on platonic connections. Who we sold it to was based on dating connections, but it was still based on connecting. So it made sense in their portfolio, which is why they wanted to acquire us and why we decided to move forward when we got offers or discussions with other companies as well. So number one, figuring out what environment slash company you want to get acquired by. That's going to change the conversation, right? That's one. Number two, what do you want for it? Do you want a bunch of stock? Because stock could be great. If you're acquired by Amazon 30 years ago and you got a handful of Amazon stock, you'd be up, I don't know, 2000x right now or some crazy number. Or it's a situation when their stock isn't looking so good. Stock meaning ownership in the company that's actually acquiring your company. So that means you could get the stock and sell it right away. Now, in the recommended books, including again Brad Feld's Venture Deals, they talk about how there's actually cliffs and other things like that actually prevent you from quickly selling the stock. So if you're pressed up for money and you sell your company and all they give you is stock, you might not even be able to sell the stock until, in some cases, 5 years after the acquisition, right? So it gets a little bit more complicated. See, there you go. And so there's always opportunities. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, there's always opportunities with that. So number one, you want to go ahead and understand what kind of company you want to get acquired by, what kind of organization. Secondly, you want to understand what you want for it. Do you want cold hard cash? Well, then what are you giving of value to them where they would give you cash versus giving you stock? Stock in general is a lot cheaper, not as far as value, but as far as opportunity to give it, you know? And so that ends up adding to it, right? And then so you end up working with, exactly, Carlos. So you end up working with like an MVP, and that's enough to go ahead and get your stuff to the next level. And maybe enough to get investors if that's the direction you want to go into. So one, who do you want to get acquired by? What kind of environment, what kind of culture? Does it match your culture? The second part is, what do you want them to give you? Because they're going to give you something, right? They're not going to give you a lollipop, right? So you want something as far as trade-off for based on what you've invested into it. Excuse me. Sometimes financially, sometimes and oftentimes the blood, sweat, and tears. Again, as you'll read in the Bites as Entrepreneur, which is included in here, in the complete Bring Your Worth collection, you know, all three of us co-founders, we gave a lot of our physical time into it. Not because it was a hugging app, not in that way, but more from the standpoint of doing the late nights, or in my case, the very early mornings, waking up at 3:15 in the morning, and then taking care of my kid all day, and then still leading this app. Like it was a lot of things that we had to put into account when we were looking at the offers that were available for us. That's number two. Number three, how are y'all going to actually break it down? When we had a conversation with, as co-founders, particularly with Charlie and I, as co-founders, and we hit 100,000 downloads slash users and 10,000 completed cuddles within the first week. And I think that happened around my birthday. So my birthday is in late September. So it was around my birthday that happened. And then I think by Halloween, I was like, all right, we got to have this conversation. And I talked to a couple friends, you know who you are. And I was like, hey, I think I need to have this conversation. They're like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, this stuff's about to blow up. Let's figure out percentages just to be on the safe side. Not saying we're going to sell the business. Remember, this is October. We didn't sell the business until nearly a year later. We didn't sell the business till like the following August. But I was like, just in case. And and all three of us had this spirited conversation and a lot of back and forth. It was friendly, but we definitely we shared numbers and we were on two different sides of the scale, and we ended up being somewhere in the middle where everybody was fairly satisfied. And then who knew? Within 9 months, it's like, great, you guys got acquired because we had agency representation. So again, back to the lawyers. We had agency representation. They're like, okay, great. We took our little cut for representing y'all. All right, what are your bank accounts? And then within a day, it's like it hit our bank accounts, right? In my case, my credit union account. I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. Imagine how contentious, how hard that would be. And we had a modest acquisition. Somebody, was it Salesforce? Breaking news. I was just reading Salesforce just acquired a company. I think they acquired the company for $8 billion. I just saw the headline. I was, just going through my news today. $8 billion. 8 billion. Okay, I'm gonna be this honest. We didn't get 8 billion for Qatar. I can say that much, right? I'm on NDAs, and so I'm gonna relax. But you know what I'm saying? Imagine how contentious that would be. 1 percentage point would be what? 1 percentage point would be what? $10 million. Yeah, 1 percentage point is $10 million. So imagine people arguing about percentage points. We already had a percentage points for the app, ownership of the app, the business around the app, locked in by, again, around Halloween here in the United States. Within 6 months, we were like, yeah, we're going to wrap this up. Within 9 months, folks are sending us checks. So as you're building your business, even ideally, if you're at the beginning of your business, hash it out now. Those numbers might change, just like anything else, just like a marriage, just like a co-partnership, just even like the relationship with your kids or the kids in your life. As they get older, it's going to change. Like the power dynamics change, the roles change, particularly when it comes to the startup world. There's things I was doing in the second half of our time leading Cuddler that I was not doing in our first half of leading Cuddler, and we only led it for about a year before we sold it. So the percentages had to reflect those roles that were coming in for me, and also the roles that were coming in for Charlie as well as for Jeff. It had to reflect those. That's why we had the back and forth. But we had the back and forth when it was safe. When you're selling your company, whomever is going to be acquiring you, they're going to need those numbers. At least in every case that I've been in, and every case that I've talked to with other people. So then slicing up and knowing, particularly if you have other founders, as well as if you have employees or people that work with you, and you sell your company, let's say for $1 million, you better get it straight with them as far as if they're getting a piece of it, if we're going to give them a bonus. And that leads to the very last big idea. The very last big idea. You have to know what's expected of you after you sell your company. You have to know what's expected of you by the acquiring organization after you sell your company. When Instagram was sold 10 years ago, I forget the founders' names, but I can see their faces. They became VPs at Facebook, now known as Meta, but they became VPs at Facebook for X number of years. That was expected of them. And what was it, 2 billion, 3 billion? If you're in the comments, let me know if you happen to remember. But it's for a bit, I say, let's say 2 billion or $2 billion. It wasn't like one guy's name was, I believe, Mike. So it's like, Mike, I think it might have been Mike and Eric. It's like, all right, Mike, all right, Eric, here's your $1 billion. Here you go. All right, thank you. Mark Zuckerberg's giving him a handshake. It's like, all right, take care. Thank you for the product. No, they were expected to continue with that transition of Instagram becoming eventually part of Facebook, usually up to 5 years. Again, we talked about that with the book Venture Deals by Brad Feld. Again, an excellent resource, as well as other people that I've talked to personally, and friends of mine that are VCs. If it's of a big stature, you're going to be expected to be part of that transition. So, as we talked about earlier in the episode, if you're actually done with doing this work and you're like, I'm going to go and get my check and I'm going to go and chill out in the Caribbean island somewhere. Or in my case, I'll be going retired somewhere in New Orleans. Shout out to my NOLA folks. No, no, you're not. The bigger the acquisition, the more you're expected to be involved in the transition of that. There's employees, there's technology. If it's a software such as Cutler, there's going to be expectation of helping them through that. We had a little bit of that, but not that much. So then, is that how you want to wrap things up? There's nothing wrong with that, but it might not be as cut and dry as you think. So understand what you want from the people that are going to acquire you. Understand what they're going to give you. Like what are they thinking? How is that pie divided up? Figure that out now before it gets messy. And they might expect you to go out and continue on as part of their company, as part of the acquisition, particularly if it's a large acquisition. Understand that before you start shopping it around. It's a really important part of the process. I can talk about it all day. Now I'm starting to sweat. You guys got me all excited here. This is my favorite subjects because I was lucky enough to have my company acquired, and I've been surrounded by people that have been on both sides of the table, as they say. They've acquired companies or VCs or what have you, and have been people that have gotten their companies acquired at scales much larger than mine. Hearing all these stories, I want to share them with you so that when you're in a situation where you have your Cuddler, you have your Instagram, that you're not going in there blind. Because, hopefully you have somebody on the inside. Hope I can be some of that for you. A cool platform that I heard about recently is called Flippa. That's how you pronounce it. It's not my Jersey accent, I promise. Flippa allows you to sell things, including your businesses. Yes, you have the basic stuff as far as like selling, what do you call it? Web domains. Domains. I don't know what domains are. Web domains. Fantastic. I've sold a web domain before, but it was before Flippa was invented. I don't think they were around. Talking about years ago. We did a transaction. It was cool, but it's like, how do you trust people with that? Luckily, I got my money and they got the platform that they wanted, etc. So then you could sell your YouTube channel, bringingworth.tv. Not interested in selling, but opportunity is there. Sell your Amazon platform, your Shopify store, as you see with the comments here, and your entire business. You get a free valuation. Back to the valuation. If you're watching an earlier episode, you know what I'm talking about. Get Brad Feld's book. And then there's brokers and people that will organize and help you sell what you're trying to do. So if you're in that position where you're like, hey, damn, I'm ready to get out now. It's my own business. I'm doing it out of my garage. I'm burnt out. I'm done. Or my community, it's done. Or I did the job I'm supposed to do. I want to get out of it. Again, the things we talked about in the previous segment, this is a great place to do it. They have a special deal with Bring Your Worth TV viewers. So if you want to check them out, it ends up supporting the channel as well as giving you a good discount for that. But check them out. Again, I just heard about them earlier this year. Frankly, for some of the stuff I was doing, man, 10, 15 years ago, it was like the wild, wild west. I'm glad platforms like Flippa actually exist. So shout out to them. One of my favorite books of all time, Value-Based Fees. I would show it to you, but I have it in digital form. And I'm gonna be frank, for that digital copy, I spent $40 on it. A digital copy. Physical copy, I think actually might have been cheaper. But Alan Weiss knows the value of his work. Value-based fees means that we should be charging and or setting our worth based on what we're contributing to the table. If I contribute, if the work that I'm doing with you adds $1 million to your bottom line, but I'm sitting here as a coach charging you $50 an hour, something's wrong. Either I'm not that good of a coach or I don't value my worth. But if I'm running a company and you're charging, again, $50 an hour, and you're going to add, I don't know, 6 figures to my bottom line, it doesn't add up. His fantastic book breaks down how you can connect what your actual worth is to your actual price. Excuse me, and all kinds of techniques in that. I think Alan is up in age. I want to say he's in his 70s, maybe 80s. He's an older gentleman. I can tell he's been around the block a lot. We've DM'd a couple times, so he knows that I love his work and I mention it a lot. And he sounds like a fantastic guy. He knows what the heck he's talking about. You know, as stars they talking about real people recognizing real people. I'm like, oh, you sold your companies. Oh, you. Speaking of flipping, you've been flipping stuff. Oh, I can tell. So I would trust Alan with what he has to say. And one last anecdote with this. It was highly recommended actually by my mother. I appreciate you, Mom. I grabbed the book when I was actually negotiating, let's just say a high ticket item, something I had never negotiated before, but the company was interested, organization I was working with, like almost like a consultant. And because I grabbed the book for $40, I think it was around the time a second kid was born. It wasn't like I was burning $40. They were burning $40 in diapers. But I burnt the $40 on it, read it all night, and then whatever proposal I had, I tore it up, virtually or otherwise, and I changed the price. And as you know, price went up. Word to Fat Joe. Yesterday's price, it's not today's price. They loved it. They understood it was worth it. And let's just say I got paid a multiple of what I would have been paid before. Changed the course of my career. There's 2 or 3 bends in my career where there was a mentor, in this case, a virtual mentor, such as a proverbial mentor, such as Alan Weiss. Another time where I had a mentor, you know who you are, where I had a conversation with them earlier in my career, and they're like, whatever you're thinking, you should be charging double that, maybe triple. And I was like, are you serious? They're like, yeah. And I did that. They're like, oh yeah, this sounds perfectly fair. I was like, oh my God, I don't understand my words. The reason why I recommend this book so much, you're like, Damon, it sounds like it's for freelancers. It's for da da da. You might be not understanding. The reason I recommend this is that everything is a negotiation. Everything. So I don't care if it's Microsoft or a small company or a private equity firm, which are getting a lot bigger and more prevalent nowadays as far as acquiring things. I don't care who it is. If you don't understand what your worth is, then they're not going to understand what their worth is. If they don't have the best intentions and or they're trying to get a good deal, then they'll be excited that you don't know what your worth is. Because then they'll be able to go and take whatever they want and give you pennies. I'm not recommending being paranoid about it. And the companies that I work with, for the most part, have had good intentions. My point is that if you don't understand your worth, then nobody else will. That's what this is talking about. Again, this show is Bring Your Worth. So that's why I always mention Alan's book. Shout out to Alan. Love you. Hope you're doing fantastic and are in good health. And of course, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. This has my journey with Cuddler, with starting the books, with being on a couple of the TED stages, all the journeys in here. Be sure and check it out. And of course, if you want to listen to the audio of it for free at bringingworth.tv, I have all the links below. What about y'all? Where are you as far as getting ready to sell your company? If you're getting ready to sell your company today, what kind of culture would you sell it to? What would you want for it? You don't have to give numbers, but would a bunch of stock be okay? Would it be, oh, hey, I just want to retire, or I just want to get my money back from what I put into it? Or are you looking like this being an exit event, as you say in Silicon Valley, whereas in this is life changing, and then your grandchildren are going to be fine? What are you expecting from the work that you're doing right now? I'm really curious about that. I love the work that I'm doing, so I have pieces that I think might make sense as far as acquisitions, but as far as the energy of it, I love hanging out with y'all. So yeah, but as I get older and as I think about things, it's important to have this conversation. This has been a fantastic series hanging out with y'all. Remember, the whole series is available right now. This is the last part of the series. So hard to say goodbye to yesterday. I'm not going to torture y'all with my karaoke voice. Today's show, Get Your Business Acquired, Exit. You can watch the entire series from the rooter to the tutor, as my folks say down south. From the beginning, where we talk about how to create something, your storefront, your website, your details as far as getting it off the ground, to actually creating the object, where it's a product or a service, and places and organizations that can help you with that as far as apps and platforms. Then getting to e-commerce and point of sale, where you actually are exchanging money, whether online or in person, credit cards or cash, and the platforms that can help you with that. And of course, today, talking about how to sell your business. Thank you so much for hanging out for this series. I'll be back this coming Wednesday, live, 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. My name is Damon Brown, entrepreneurial coach. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV, live on Wednesdays at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. And that is the vibes of that. What I'll do with the end of the series, if you're watching the rerun, the complete Bring Your Worth collection will be available for you. And it should be popping up right in front of my big head. Much love to y'all. Best of luck with your business. If there's any way I can support, don't be a stranger. You reach out to me, DaveBrown.net, or in the comments below. Remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. And yeah, good luck building.